All right, welcome to Gaming Gainz and Geekery. Today I have Adrian Veinot, good buddy of mine. We used to work together at Parkland Good Life years ago. About 5 years we worked together, and yeah, we've stayed in touch, talk about nerdy shit all the time. Adrian, tell the people about yourself.
All right. Well, I am a personal trainer. I've been doing it for 20 years on the nose. I work with a wide array of clients. I've been doing it so long that I kind of switch it around. Obviously, I have a background as a bodybuilder and a competitive fitness model. I did very well at that, but it kind of doesn't serve me anymore. So I've now moved into what some people may call corrective or functional training. Most of it is balancing people's gait sequence out, working on their posture, their breath mechanics, and a lot of things that a lot of people take for granted that down the road when they need to be fixed up and get out of pain, they end up come back to see me for those sorts of things. And I'm trying more so now to make it preventative and try to put the message out there that we can stop a lot of things before they start, or at least lessen the blow as they kind of go along. Which is a completely different phase of personal training, but with a bodybuilding modeling background, it helps me get actors ready for shows like You and Riverdale, Moonshine, and SEAL Team on the CBS. So they've got some actors all over the place, some of which who have been on shows like Supernatural, Sanctuary, a couple other sci-fi shows that I can't, World of Warcraft. One of my clients is in World of Warcraft, and that's probably one of my favorite ones to watch. So that's what I do. I'm an animal lover, single guy.
Throw that out there.
Just throw that out there. And I'm really passionate about my job. Like Jason says, we've been friends for a very long time, and that's me.
All right. That's fantastic. So can you delve into the preventative side that you're trying to bring about with your particular style of training now? I'd love to hear more about that.
Okay. Well, preventative, when you look at people who weight train, or when you look at the general population, there tends to be things that carry over. You can see certain postures from people, like you'll hear terms like text neck or head forward posture that tends to operate with students or maybe gamers. People who tend to stick their neck out, watch a lot of TV, or people who tend to look down at their phone a lot. You walk by those robots and those zombies a lot, they're on the street, not really checking before they go. Those kind of postural links can make a big difference. Other people have, whether it be collapsed arches or poor hips. And what you come to find out is that each one feeds into the other. So you could have imbalanced hip or an imbalanced ankle, and it would directly connect the chain. So it's really a holistic style of approach of fitness. It's designed to help people decompress and de-stress. And more recently, with what shall not be named in the last 2 years, probably that'll keep all the titles off the screen, what should not be named, that you can see things even more dominant in people's stress response. So like a trauma response in their body, they'll be pulling forward. You might catch a more spiritual person tell you that their heart chakra or their throat chakra or their root chakra is unbalanced. There's a lot of imbalance, a lot of stress, and helping people kind of open up those pools for a free-flowing system. If you almost think of like the brain, and the spinal column, almost like one big sperm, that's kind of what we are. And every single time people have a kink or an energy link in that chain, they're really lessening themselves and their true potential. A lot of people walk around in a lot of pain that they don't tell anyone about. And it's one thing to know how to get out of pain, but it's a whole nother skill to know how to hide that pain. And I would like to be the guy to help people get out of it rather than just teach them how to hide it. I would like to teach more people how to go to the weight room after a breakup and build themselves up truly, rather than a masochistic, destructive way, tear themselves down and make themselves in the image of something they want to be. I'm very much about helping people reach that higher self. But the dominant portion of it is structural. So it's about attaining a certain tensegrity, which would be a tensional balance, where everything is efficient and operates at somewhat of an optimal level. Like in this game, you're probably never going to be perfect. If you're pushing yourself, if you're challenging yourself, if you're doing a few hours here or there, something's going to get out of sync. But knowing how to retune that is key. And it takes a pretty in-depth eye, and it takes a pretty patient and encouraging coach to help people get through some of those pains. Because what you come to find out is a lot of them are deeply rooted, maybe 80-90+% in actual ego. It's a manifestation of something along the lines that way. But I might not ever delve into that with a client. I may just help them get out of pain and help them make those discoveries on their own. Rather than being suggestive, I just feed people little snacks along the way. And as they improve, you'll notice that those people, as they decompress, as they work through blockages, they tend to enlighten themselves. And then you're more of just someone kind of guiding someone along the way than actually showing them. And a lot of that comes through discipline and patience and persistence and consistency. And that's kind of my strength. It's always kind of been my strength to operate in that realm, but to now know how to deliver it. So anyone, whether it be a young child, 5 years old, or to a golden adult in their late 90s, to ensure that those people are living their best life until their last day and not a burden on themselves or anyone else. We come to find out that a lot of us live in we'll go to the gym and we build ourselves up. And what we don't realize along the way is that sometimes those walls that we build ourselves up with end up becoming a prison. And I like to help people become free of that prison and move more freely, not hold energy in their body, know how to express that energy in a constructive and beneficial way rather than a destructive way. And that's a lot of it. And if you wanted to get more technical, it is generally looking at the different systems of the body. I'm a big proponent of the system that is called GOATA because it has worked so well for me and works with so many clients. And what that stands for is the greatest actions of all time. GOATA natural movement. What these individuals did is they looked at young babies, like fresh out the womb, and how they moved. They looked at super athletes, like say Bo Jackson. And then they looked at older adults who were all operating, still running marathons. And they looked for all the similarities, all the things that those individuals were sharing. And there's a certain, well, they call it the singularity across the board, that once you know how to observe it, you'll see it and you can't unsee that singularity. And then what happens is you will walk around like you've got glasses on, much like the Roddy Piper movie. You guys know what I'm referencing. And you start seeing WOTA, which is worst actions of all time. And it's not to classify someone as good or bad in a binary sense, but there is an optimal for this body. There is a blueprint of movement that you can see in all of nature across fractal movement. And then there are disturbances in that force. And as an example, people who may walk with their feet turned out tend to have a pelvis that is pushed forward and a compressed low back. They tend to have a rounded upper middle back, and they tend to have head forward posture. And then those individuals, they'll mistakenly, and even guided by other professionals, go into the gym and train on that system, which is no different than playing on an instrument or riding on a bike tire that isn't tuned properly. And people will argue that something is better than nothing. And I like that argument because it's positive, but playing on an instrument that is not tuned properly will never teach you how to play a properly tuned instrument. And it'll never get you a properly tuned instrument. And that wear and tear will come with a price. And that price will be your quality of life. And I run into a lot of people that are very, very encouraging about just something's better than nothing. Movement. And you'll notice that if you go in certain disciplines like martial arts or anything, like there's a yes and there's a no. And in GOATA, there's a yes and there's a no. And if you can articulate why without using shame, but rather than using shame, using abundance and prosperity, where some trainers will like the term sustainable, I don't. It comes from a place of fear. I like something that comes from a place of abundance, something that says you can have more, you can be more, and you never have to stop being more, but you have to do the assessments first and foremost to know where you're at in the world, in space, in your body. And unfortunately, most people either don't or have lost their operating manual for their own body. And that can really lead to some detrimental pain, and they can end up being trapped. And then worse, they can end up being a burden on their loved ones. And that's a whole new kind of pain. And sometimes it feels like you're at the bottom of a well looking up. And all it really takes sometimes is someone just stick out their hand and be able to guide you the way, and something that you believe in, someone that you know has social proof of results. And that's something I'm very proud of. If anybody watches me on Instagram, you can see me at Adrian Veinot. And I encourage you any day, go on there and look, and you will see people of all different ages performing all different series of movements and dietary systems to help them hit their goals. There is no one size fits all for me. I am notoriously known for doing very fast weight loss, which is to a large amount of the population in the trainer world a no-no. Most of these clients, I would say the 99% of these clients don't gain this weight back, but they are hired and they're hiring me to do that job. So they are an actor. It is a shirtless scene, no different than someone who hires me for a wedding or a competition. Those people come in and they really want to put the hammer down, but I also tend to be an end zone trainer. And what I mean by that is after a lot of people work with me, they either don't need me anymore, they consider me a luxury and they work with me, or they don't need anyone else because I'll teach them how to fish rather than hand them fish and explain the whole process along the way. And, you know, I'm quite proud of being the dude that helps people get ready in a short amount of time and do those unrealistic things. But those are real people doing real things, just pushing at a different level. And it's not for everyone. Keep in mind it's completely supervised, but you know, it's not crazy to see people losing a lot of weight with me in a short period of time or change their body a lot for a TV show where they are going to be on national TV, a show like Riverdale where they're known to be ripped. I mean, even in Peacemaker, have you seen that where he's like those cunts from Riverdale, you know, like
yeah.
Those people, when they do that, that's kind of what they hire me for. And I really enjoy it. It's a challenge to help people do that and do it healthy. And then what I do, and I hope they're not watching, is I slide all the shit that they really need in the background. So as I service the want, I deliver the need, I slide in the GOATA. I just give them little snacks, little tips along the way that makes such a profound difference that generally, even when we're done getting ready for that scene, these people continue with me because they realize that they'll be able to perform better on their job, on set, interact better with their coworkers, and that body language is 70 to 90% of communication, and that's what they want on the screen. So like, I very much, that's very much like what I do when it comes to corrective stuff. I'm always sliding it in the background. I think you can understand the sneakiness of that. The other aspect of my job is that I really enjoy and correctively would be the nutrition. Very much going after gut health, quality of life, microbiome, diversity of nutrients, and helping people understand like that they don't have to use good or bad. They could use more or less nutritious, however they want to define it, but to empower people through their nutrition rather than operate again from a place of fear. A sustainable diet plan to me, when I hear those words come across, I understand what most people think they're communicating, but I also understand that they're communicating it unknowingly or knowingly from a place of fear and scarcity as a sales technique. And I generally like to take the road less traveled, which is we can make you a more optimal human being who's always prosperous. Like, do you want to sustain what you have? Really? Like, if this is it, that's what I hear when I hear sustainable. You can get away with this. You could be more. That's my approach.
Definitely a very different tactic from what you see from a lot of coaches right now, for sure. And as someone who likes to look at the long term as well, like I prefer to help people with their long-term goals too. Oh, Deadpool. I fucking love that. And I've got Wolverine today.
No lie. The other one kicking around is Wonder Woman. I have almost all of them. Like some of them have had to go, but yeah, when this shit came out, I was all over it.
I only have like 14 or 15 of them too. It's not a big deal.
Man. Excellent.
Yeah, so like that's the sustainability talk there, like thinking about what people need long term. And I agree with you that some people, when they say the word sustainable, they're like, you can get away with this or you can get away with that, and it's not optimal. It's not what's going to be best for people in the long term. But being able to work those things in if you want them is also another piece of that equation, right? And that's more my tactic. Is like, I want you to understand that like you can have those things, but you don't want them right now. Like that's not going to help you achieve this.
In time, they will from you, you know, like as they continue to level up, you probably notice that what can I do more of? It's probably one of the greatest conversations or texts you can get from a client. when they're proud of themselves, and you can feel it through the communication, the text, like you can just tell in the way they're replying, like as if you just like your amount of pride goes up and someone says, what can I do more of? How can I take this further? You know, because for the first time, it's not about just enough. It's about wanting more and knowing that they're capable. Yeah. And I totally grasp what is being sold on the other end. I totally grasp it. But I try to look at the real essence of the words people are using. And, you know, if you go in, you talk to someone and say, you can sustain this for the rest of your life, or you could have abundance for the rest of your life, you know, like the words we use, the words we choose are really empowering. I mean, spelling casts spells, right? Like, ooh, but it's very true. It's very, very true. And self-talk is key. And when a client tells me that, you know, what can I do that's sustainable? Like nobody comes to me and says that with a passion. But then when I do that same thing what you talked about, I give them a little bit of sustainable, but then it goes from being a bit of faith in me to belief in themselves. Well, then the fire's lit and it's a runaway train for a lot of people. Runaway train, like, how can I take this up? Okay, like I have some clients who I guarantee you they're gamers. We don't talk about it, but I guarantee you. And they work behind computers all day long from home. They went with me in 4 weeks and very abruptly went from probably under 2,000 steps a day to in between 8 and 12 a day. Now, that's movement,
a big change.
That's a massive change. Bit much for anyone watching, bit much, but we were getting ready for a wedding and they hired me for that purpose. So, but a bit much, you know, your feet are going to pay the price, but you know what? Your body will adapt.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't the adapting that like really was the benefit for them. It was the mental health, the vitamin D, the sun, the seeing people, the getting up, the fresh air, the achievement of going like, I did 9,000 today. Holy shit, that's 7,000 more than you did like any day last month. They're like, any day in the last 2 fucking years. It's like, yeah, what more are you capable of? And then they start planning things differently. They park further away at the grocery store. They walk home from their date. You know, they do things like that. And this was when I trained as a couple, I could just see it take their life up. And I know how they're going to spend their summer. And it's going to be more active probably than ever before, loving being in their body but for some people, one of the first time ever to actually, you know, not just loving what they're looking at in the mirror, but waking up and feeling good. Blood pressure has changed. Cholesterol has changed, but their belief in themselves is completely different. Yeah. To the point that I don't work with these people anymore because they don't need me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the plan, right? That's the plan. Like I'm not looking for a return patient unless they want to be, a return client unless they want to be. I'm actually looking to teach someone something as fast as possible and then send them on their way and hopefully get a referral out of it. Yeah. You know, like, you know, and that would be great. But like at the end of the day, if you're with me for a long time, it's probably because they see the value and they just want to keep like reinforcing that. But I'll still take people on for very short periods of time to solve short-term problems, because if they're coming to me for help, I don't really turn my back. Like today I was at the gym and I still helped a couple boys in the change room with posing. The guy comes in, he goes, I know how to do this, man. I'm like, yeah, take my headphones off. I was like, well, I got 15 minutes, guys. I got to go to this. But to see a guy go from this, who felt he was small, to this and being big. And he was just like, that one little change changed everything about how he saw himself. Yeah. He went home a totally different guy, and he looked a lot more like the people that he probably idolizes. And he just had to realize it wasn't him. It was just his presentation. Yeah. And I know you understand that. Himself.
Yeah. And I will say, like, of like all the people I've ever worked with in this industry, like, I don't think I've met anybody who understands that better than you do. Like how to pose a body to get the most like oomph to come out of that positioning. And like, how do you get someone to look like as muscular as they possibly can, or as lean as they possibly can? Like, I've never seen anybody who has a better eye for that than you do, which is probably why.
I think like there's two things that I'm always looking for. I'm obviously looking at all the metrics for body fat and angles and proportion. The real thing, the secret thing, is watching the smile. Because if those people have to present themselves their belief in themselves is going to be key. How they know they see themselves is going to be key. And all the practice in the back room before the photo shoot of the show, it's very helpful. But if it can't be applied when you literally step on stage and go to war, then I didn't really do my job. So something I'm always watching for is the smile.
Right.
That winning smile, that winning smile comes with a lot of feeling, and it comes with a lot of emotion behind it and pride. And it's not just the teeth, it's the mouth, it's the eyes, it's every aspect of how they hold themselves. So I'm always trying to cultivate that in the background. Is like, okay, like, are you going to be exactly what you want? Never.
No, never.
Probably never. Probably never. And if you do catch it, it's like building sandcastles. Boom, a wave comes in, it takes it away. But if you appreciate that journey of getting there and the growth that'll happen to you as a person within it, it's positive, very, very positive. And I really appreciate that comment. I put probably over a decade and a half into doing that. When being from like Nova Scotia, not a lot of people were really into that. And I fought my way through it a lot, as with a company that didn't encourage it one bit, management that didn't really see value in it. And now that I work for myself and do everything my own way, it's like you just took the shackles right off me. I became in the last 2 years a completely different trainer. Not that I'm bad talking my former employer. I'm very grateful for everything I learned there. But the freedom to do things the way that I feel, rather than following a formula created by someone else, it gives me the ability to really be a personal trainer, not just a system follower or any other way someone might look at it. I'm sure that people are knowing what I'm trying to articulate right now. We probably all had their bad experience going to the gym like that. And I try very hard to be very authentic. So like, you can see that right on my Instagram. I try to be as authentic as possible, show aspects of every part of my life, with the exception of a few, because, everybody's got to keep something a little private.
But a little bit of stuff to the chest for sure.
Yeah, hold a little bit. But some of the things I'm into really big time right now that in my fitness or journey, you can't even show on Instagram because they're not interesting. It would not be interesting to watch me do breath work. I recently was able to get myself to a place where I'm able to roughly operate around 2 to 3 breaths a minute. And that's not impressive to watch.
No, but it is impressive if you understand how breath works.
Yes. And for a lot of people, they're probably thinking that's a fucking anxiety attack waiting to happen. It kind of is, until you realize you're in complete control. And then it becomes very yogi. I'm also into Kundalini yoga and a lot of other things along those lines. Qigong is something I also practice. Okay. But just energy movement. Realistically, because working with such a vast population, I like to have a really big tool belt, especially when it comes to working through trauma. Because we all carry a lot of trauma, and that affects everything from how they fucking breathe from the second they wake up, even when they're asleep, the nutritional choices they make. And when you can work through those traumas, like, the empowerment is ridiculous. Ridiculous. You see whole new people and whole new approaches. And it's scary. It's really scary. Like, you probably heard the term confront the dragon, get the gold. Well, Jordan Peterson, it's very true. It's very true. Like, we all have our light and we all have our shadow, and you can't just pay attention to the light. You got to know that shadow. You got to basically what they call coincidenta opitorum, which is the unity of opposites. The balance of masculine and feminine. And I'm sure that's an argument for someone out there, but everybody knows what I mean, because it's been referenced for the last hundreds of years. Yeah,
absolutely. I think there is a balancing of energy that we need to understand as like normal people, right? Like, you can't go too far to any extremes and stay there. Like, that's why they're extremes. You need to find that balance somewhere in the middle and figure out like how to play with your energy to move you from one realm to another. And like, I love that whole like slay the dragon to get the gold kind of concept. Like, it just relates right to like gaming and like being a giant nerd and loving all of these like fantasy concepts that I just like. I wish more gamers got to hear stuff like this, because like so many of them could use more of this kind of information.
Well, I do game every once in a while. I haven't owned a system since I kind of owned a PlayStation 1 with my brother, but I wasn't into it a whole lot. I'm a legit 8-bit, and I was an 8-bit, like NES 8-bit guy. Like, who the fuck wasn't at our age? That, like, if you haven't played Mario, you ain't fucking lived. If you haven't played Mario 3, like, if you haven't lived. But at the same point in time, like, I was a big Sega Genesis guy. One reason only. Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis had blood.
Yeah.
And it had get over here, not come here. And that's what put me in that direction. I was a big Mortal Kombat junkie. I haven't played any of the new games, but no lie, I've watched a lot of YouTube on it, probably sitting around smoking a J because I've just been interested. But then I started realizing these motherfuckers are doing things like it's fucking chess now. Yeah. I was a button masher, and they've outlawed a lot of shit, like slide uppercut type shit. They like the freeze, they've outlawed that. Like, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
Yeah, and I started watching like some of these what do they call them, banned characters, because they were either only on one system and then other people couldn't play. But some of the stuff I've seen in tournaments is a whole nother level, and I have an immense respect for it. It's just probably with the things that I do in my life, I don't even have enough time, and that would suck. To go and like people are like, why don't you just go game online? Because I get my ass handed to me by like a fucking like 3-year-old kid straight out of like China. Like, have you ever seen the emotional damage where they have like Chinese kid mode? Like, I would get destroyed. So like I haven't really played a lot of games since then, and I haven't bought into the nostalgia kick because I really played those games till the wheels fell off. When I was a youngster, going through my parents' divorce, I threw myself into video games. Like, it was something I could control when everything else around me like was shit. When I was really unhappy, I spent years sitting in a beanbag chair playing those games, drinking fucking, you remember Sippies?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those were
Sippies, and like I totally, the video games were my escape, and it saved me, but it just doesn't serve me as much anymore now. Right. But like, I can't imagine where I would have been without the ability to escape into video games as a young child. Like, it got me into graphic design and web design, which I really enjoyed. But that again, like, was an unhealthy lifestyle for like, it just didn't align with how I wanted to live and move, like to sit behind computers. Like, but I still appreciate like seeing people work in Maya or different 3D rendering programs. I love it. I love the understanding of it. I love talking about it. I love seeing it in movies. Like, just the other day, I watched the Hobbit 5 Armies, and like those movies, like the Hobbit ones are kind of shit compared to Lord of the Rings. We all know this, but we all still fucking watch them all the way through extended edition. But like, all of those movies still hold up big time. Yeah, like in regards to CGI and everything else, I would argue better. Like, I would take the shittiest Lord of the Rings and put it up against any Transformers, and yeah, no contest. Yeah. And like, I think for me, like, still, you could say that sci-fi, like to an extent, gaming sort of things like that, what you call the geekery, is probably my biggest escape. Yeah. I sleep the best with Star Trek: The Next Generation on in the background, and I never knew why. Yeah. And then I realized there's always the hum of the ship in the background. And and that's it. And then I probably know all those fucking episodes, like not off the top of my head to like really go with them, but as soon as they start talking, I'm like, bingo. Oh, yeah,
I remember that one.
And I'll be honest with you, I even like Voyager. Not so much Deep Space Nine, but I do like Voyager. I don't like the new cartoon ones as much. Like, there's just certain, like, even the new Picard, like I only like it because I know the old Picard. I wouldn't watch it otherwise.
Right.
And
there's a certain nostalgia with Picard because it's Picard, and Patrick Stewart just embodies the role so well.
Bingo, like, really does. I was actually a big Riker fan, to be honest with you. I thought, like, I really, and just the whole, like, everyone casted. I even like the Orville. I've seen every episode of the Orville. Yep.
Oh man, that's like so brilliantly done. It's actually like a better Star Trek than a lot of current Star Trek. Like, I don't even think that's up for debate. Like, anybody could argue that, but it's not, you're not right. The Orville is a better Star Trek than like Discovery, or I think these cartoons are a completely different thing, but yeah.
Well, you can tell the Orville, you can tell that Seth MacFarlane is obviously a big fan.
Yeah.
And they touch on social issues the exact same way, in a very lighthearted way.
Yep.
And they really, like, I'm surprised they're able to get away with that. It's so close that like it must just dance on copyright everywhere. Everywhere.
It's like just different enough.
just enough. But I mean, like, what they have the guys, they have like, it's the same sex couple there. The what are they called? But they're basically wharfs.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I forget what the race is called too. It's been a little while since I sat down for the orbital, but
they urinate like once a year. They made a whole episode about it. But like, I mean, that'd be a lot of stuff that I do. Like most of my geekery would come from the sci-fi world now, more than the gaming world. Right. I think the gaming world's progressed at a level that's pretty impressive. But like too fast for me, something that I would want to escape in. And I've never been into like long-term RPGs.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I never did D&D. I was more the like coin operated type, go in, and then walk.
Right.
I mean, like NBA Jam, fuck yeah. NFL Blitz, fuck yeah.
Oh man, I loved NFL Blitz. That game was great.
You know,
it's like so over the top, but it was amazing.
Bingo, right? Like, you know, and even the old hockey games where you could just take it straight up the middle and score and like, you know, piss off your friend. And like I don't even know if that exists in gaming anymore. They probably figured out how to not have much of that go down, but I'm sure kids are on top of it and figuring out how to beat the games. I love watching speed running too, because the amount of time that I put into some of these 1980 games to see someone fly through the whole game like that, it just you're just sitting there going, what the fuck? And then at some point in time, you come to find out from watching YouTube, you come to find out some of that stuff is edited. Some of those guys are using cheats and stuff. So it's not, it made me feel a little better because it's not all fully legit. Which I was like, this guy's clearly a warlock. There's no way he's able
cheating.
To do that.
I don't know how. I don't know what kind of magic that is, but he's using magic.
And you come to find out that those guys, some of them are cheating, which is, you know, it doesn't really matter to me at the end of it. It's like, you just see it. But I mean, frig, I remember like Jim, there was a game I used to love called like Pit Boss or something like that. Like real old, like big, I used to love fighting games. I was like, you know, I was escapism, angry kid, fighting games, man.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like Mortal Kombat, maybe Street Fighter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fighter, like it was tough though, right? Like Street Fighter 2, same time as Mortal Kombat. No lie, I went towards the Mortal Kombat. I think I went for the fatalities over top of the Street Fighter. If I did go Street Fighter, my favorite character was Sagat, whatever you want to call him. Like, you know, throw a tiger uppercut there, but it's a tough call between those two games. I think it is for anyone.
I think for a lot of people, their decision would be based on which one they played first. Like that's just like been my experience. If you played Street Fighter 2 first, that's your favorite. If you played Mortal Kombat first, that's your favorite. Generally speaking, like I played Street Fighter 2 first, and like it's still I like it better than Mortal Kombat. I do like Mortal Kombat as well, and like Mortal Kombat 11 came out on the Switch, and I played a little bit of that. But like you said, like these fighting games have gotten like so intense now that I don't feel like I have enough time to get good at the game.
It's sounding like I should get a Switch. I've heard this has come up a few times. I hear there's nostalgia games with it. Like it's really sounding like if there was an investment, the Switch is where it's at. Is that correct?
Personally, I would say yes. Because you do get like the Nintendo Online membership. You can get your SNES, your NES, and your N64 games. You've got Sega actually on there now too. Yeah, they've got I forget how many, 16 to 20, I think Sega titles are on there right now, and they're releasing more all the time. And then
what kind of deal with the devil went down at Sega and Nintendo? What happened there? Those guys were arch rivals. How is that?
Oh man, yeah, and like you had the SNES and the Sega like competing for their market share, but I mean like after that, Sega just kind of dropped off the map, right? It became Nintendo and Sony after that. And like now you have Sony, Xbox, and Nintendo, but or Microsoft, I guess you should say. Yeah, I think like sometime after the Dreamcast, Nintendo wound up like basically buying Sega. And like now they basically own them now. So they like can release some of the old titles, and they work together to make some new titles too. Like there's some new Sonic stuff that's come out that they've worked with Sega to create. But
I see there's a new Sonic movie there. It looks like Knuckles is the bad guy.
Yep. That actually, like, I think that might be good. I enjoyed the first one. It wasn't like a tier movie, but it was worth a watch.
I enjoyed watching the internet get pissed off when they gave him the stupid fur. I enjoyed that because I was like, this is not gonna fly. Like, very similar to the new Lord of the Rings thing coming out. When I saw it, I was like, I'm not saying nothing, but I'm guaranteeing the internet's gonna rip this up. And lo and behold, the internet comes out and rips it up,
Yeah.
Like, have you seen what they're saying about the new Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power or whatever on Amazon?
I haven't seen a lot. I try to stay away from that drama as much as I can. But there was definitely a lot of people that were upset by the title. I remember that, and I was just like, but why? Like, it describes what the show is going to be about. Could they have come up with a better title? Probably. And the fact that, like, they're a major company and they didn't put more time into coming up with a good title is questionable. But I mean, it's memorable. At least the Rings of Power is definitely, it sticks in your head.
Everybody's going to watch it.
Yep.
That's like, if I was running, like, if I was Jeff Bezos looking at that, I'm like, these motherfuckers complaining, they're still going to watch it. We could literally put, like, right at the beginning of the show, fuck you to anyone who didn't like it, they'll still watch it.
Yeah.
I'll watch it unless it's like atrocious,
yes.
Which it probably won't be. I'll watch it just because, but I'd love to see them drop something that could rival something of the past. A lot of times you notice things degrade, like in the spin-offs and everything. And that's really unfortunate because it's almost like watching a fighter that should have retired and walked away from the ring. It just did that last fight and tarnishes their reputation, And it can be a bit of a drag if that's the last thing you remember is like, oh man, like, it's funny you say the Dreamcast though. That reminds me of I really enjoyed a game called Virtual Fighter.
Okay, I didn't play that one actually.
There was a dude in it named King. It was one of the first 3D games that came out, where you're fighting in the 3D realm and wrestling moves. That's why. But just it had these crazy axe kicks. Like, it's very Tekken-like. Virtual Fighter's like Tekken, like Jin Kazuya type, like the same kind of cameras and all that stuff. I was just like, from playing like that side version of Profile to something like that, I was like, this is incredible.
Like a 2D side scroller to a 3D fighter game would be so different.
Well, it was, like you were literally fighting with polygonal, like what would look like a Robaxaset commercial characters. But it was just, to watch it and see it hit from all these angles is just glorious. Like, I remember that. Like, I think maybe that was on the Sega Saturn. I don't think I ever got to the Dreamcast, and I've never played anything on an Xbox. Like, and I think if I was to make a decision on that, I would probably operate off which controller I liked.
Right. Yep.
Because that's going to be the interaction with system. Like, I mean, all the rest of it seems to be comparable, arguable.
Yeah.
But the controller, like, I have small hands. I'm going to pick the one that I'm going to function the best on.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen these guys doing this tap mode shit where they are hitting
they turn the controller sideways and it's insane.
Love it.
Like, I'm like, it's a skill. It really is. Like, and that's how I feel about like speed running and like video games in general. Like, if you're going to get into video gaming and speed running and that stuff, like, it becomes something that you have to practice to become good at, much like what we do in the gym, like making our body more functional. And this is why I see so many parallels between like what we do in fitness and what people do in gaming. And I'm like, if you can game at a high level, you can fitness at a high level too. You just have to take those skills and move them over into this other realm.
If you got the discipline in one spot, if you got discipline in any one thing, you can port that discipline into the new, like those skill sets into the new thing, but you have to come at it with the same relentless passion that you would have came at it for that thing with. But it all carries across. So, if someone tells me they're an amazing gamer, I'm like, okay, so you have all the tools to apply yourself. You put in the hours, the sacrifice that's going to come with that, the pains. You can do that in the gym or outside of the gym. Most of what I like to do is actually outside the gym now. Like, I was just at the gym and I stare out the windows like a frigging animal of the circus in prison. Like, I just walk around in between to keep moving. Whereas, like, in a very short period of time, I will ditch the gym and go outside in the sun in my bare feet to be a human.
Yeah.
To be human. And to get the grounding, so to basically get that ionic charge from the earth as I exercise, to get the wind in my hair and to play and feel like a kid. I want to stay forever young. And, you take a good look in the gym, you look around in between sets, people are chatting, they're standing with their hand on their hip. They're definitely not in good posture. They're not really thinking about it until they go work hard again, or they're looking at their phone, or they're sad or whatever. And take yourself to the park one day, you know what I'm talking about, and go outside and just play, and the hours just fly by. And I say play because it's the feeling. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm just fucking around and playing, but it comes with a totally different thing. There's a difference between the batting cage and on the ball field.
Yep, absolutely. You know? And this is the same thing, right? Like, and I do, like, I get what you're saying. Like, outdoor workouts are amazing. Like, it's a different experience. Like, and this is like why I'm like 50-50 indoor and outdoor when summer rolls around. Like, there's still some stuff that, like, it's just easier to get done in the gym that
does it have to
doing.
do with the fact that tools are right there accessible? Like, if the tool was outside, would you use it outside?
Oh, if the tools were all outside, I'd be outside. Yeah,
like,
no
I get
question.
that goddamn Olympic bar and all those like kettlebells and dumbbells outside, I would do it. And that's that's why places like sometimes those gold gyms that you see outside, those are really cool.
Right. We had exactly the same thought process. That was actually where I was going. It's like, if I was like on Venice Beach, like, I'd be at Gold's Gym, like, training outdoors all the time. Like, I just can't imagine like a better situation. But like where we live here in Nova Scotia, the whole weather, it doesn't always cooperate year round. So
the best you're gonna get here is like the box gym style, where you can open up one of the walls, like a CrossFit style, where and that's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's still not outside. It is fresh air, but it's still not sun. And I've noticed a lot of the gyms are taking the trend of actually going dim lit with fancy lights. And I think it's trendy. It makes for a good IG photo, but it actually does everyone a disservice. There are very few athletic things you do in that style of environment. And it's not good for people's circadian rhythms either. So on the vast scheme of health, what I see gyms like, I don't know, Good Life doing, these bright halogen LED lights above, pumping down. So a ton of blue light on people, very unnatural. It's really almost like, I hate to say it, it's reverse engineering. Bodybuilding and such is reverse engineering. I don't actually hate to say it. I hate to piss someone off with the truth. And I mean, that comes from a guy who bodybuilded forever. Like, it is reverse engineering. And the environments that people put themselves in matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It changes your body, and in changing your body, you change how you respond to your environment and like how you feel inside of your own body. But I think like that kind of comes back to something we talked about earlier, where people are completely disconnected from their body. They don't know how they feel. They don't know what's happening in their chest with the way that they breathe. Like, if anybody had told me that the thing I was going to teach the most to my clients was going to be breathing, I would have laughed in their face. But now I'm like, most of the time, that is what I'm spending my time doing. I'm like, you're not breathing. Like, deep breath, slow exhale. Like, you control your breath. You control your breath. You control your response to the exercise. Like,
not much more we do than take breaths and make steps in a day.
Yeah.
And if every breath and every step is a rep, what kind of rep do you want to have?
Yeah.
And like, that's your life force. We are nature, and so it does make a profound difference. It's just not flashy.
Yeah. It's hard to sell that. Absolutely. Like, yeah, but the whole marketing side of that, like getting people to buy in to these ideas, is much more challenging than some like flashy IG exercise. The trainers
right now, right now, a lot of that stuff is marketing, and like it sometimes is sold easier by people with, say, I don't know, a mandala or a sleeve tattoo, or maybe like some like a man bun. Like, there is a look that people kind of buy into when it comes to be a yogi or a guru. You have to be very cautious with that. Like, it's very easy to grow your hair out long, put a man bun in, and then put a few tattoos on, and talk slow like sad guru. And then you come to realize, as you actually get into that more spiritual stuff, that's actually disconnected fraud. That's fakery. It's being
your authentic self.
Not one bit, because if that was the case, why are they all the same?
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
we're not one of us is the same. Like, we're all different in some way.
And I find people anchor to that because it fits the image that they've been sold by, unfortunately, most likely TV. And it's a half truth.
Right.
In some cases, those people are very authentic, but what I've come to learn on my own journey is that you really want to take a much deeper dive and ask questions, not simply just buy into a look, a marketing scheme. It's very, very easy. Like, look at how people market themselves in fitness now. You can just tell by their Instagram bio what niche they're trying to get into, or they're trying to claim to be the best at. Do you know how many trainers there are that help busy professionals lose weight in like a short amount of time? Like, there's so many. Yeah. That's what most of them do.
That's I would say at least 75% of like Instagram trainers, that's what their bio says. And then like I've talked with coaches to try to figure out like what's the best kind of like taglines to use, and they're all like, stop saying you help busy professionals. Everyone says they help busy professionals. We get it. We're all busy. We all have things to do. That's like, come up with a different tagline, look for a different clientele. Like, and like, that's like one of the things I appreciate about your particular approach. Very different. And like, I'm trying to target more of like a gamer nerds type of clientele who are like just needing to move. You need to get up and start doing stuff, because like it will also carry over into making you better at that stuff that you enjoy. Like
100%. Like that'd be the niche I would take. Be like, how many hours can you game right now? How's your neck feel? What if you didn't have that nagging pain in your neck? Where would your focus be? Like right now, I'd ask somebody, where's your focus? Where's your attention? Okay, why? Why is it there? What, like, should it be there? What if it didn't have to be there? What percentage allocation could you put towards what you actually want to? And then how efficient would you be? You know, if you get out of it and you're always rubbing and you get these headaches and your suboccipitals, or you notice your eyes are like a little watery, where you're probably dehydrated, maybe your head's a little forward. But what if we could modify that you could be more present in the moment, thus more efficient while gaming? You know, and that's no different than I would explain to anyone else. I would take their passion and tell them that we could be more present in your passion, and that you could probably get more out of it. And it would take work, but it's your passion. So what better thing to work towards?
Yeah.
You know, and then we can keep you doing your passion longer. And then you can get you teaching and sharing that passion and these new advancements with others. And it's something that I think a lot of people, like, especially who game, might want to think about, like, realistically, because we're sucked into a virtual world. And if you want to balance that, you got to come outside of it. You know, I look at the metaverse, and what immediately goes through my head is that Wall-E scene where people are hooked up in their chairs. And I personally hope for more for humanity than that. I realize people want to escape, and the world is tough, but you change your perspective, pull back the lens, and maybe practice a little reductionism for a little while, and a little bit of self-work, and like I said, on breath, and realizing that people are more in control. And then when they go back to those things, they are better at them because they're operating in them differently. Again, probably it's either fear or pleasure. And I try to take people towards the pleasure rather than the fear. Well, if I stop gaming now, someone might get better. What about if you take a break, when you come back, you got a 25% increase in performance without pain or distraction? Shit. And that other guy who didn't take a break, well, we even know that Rolexes need tune-ups.
Yep.
You know, like, and most of the time it comes down to listening to somebody, but understanding what do they really want, and how are we going to be able to get you to get more of it? Abundance, right? Yep. Like, everything for me comes back to that abundance. And I think with a lot of trainers, they've just fallen into the world of wanting to say the lines, like the bio lines and the things that everybody's saying, because for a short period of time it works.
Yeah,
I would argue, I would encourage a lot of people to go look at the results. Hey, Stitch, look at the results that trainers are able to deliver with their clientele. If their whole Instagram, and here this is people might not like this, but if their whole Instagram is just a narcissistic set of, watch me do this exercise, explain this exercise, watch me do this reel where I take someone else's audio clip completely out of context and then actually shame a subgroup while I do it, but then claim that I'm all inclusive, that's a bunch of doublespeak lying. Yeah. And I hope people take that to heart. If you're one of those people that do it, be better. If you're one of those people that see it, don't hire them until they are, because they're not coming from a place of love or authenticity. They're coming from a place of shame, and they're coming from a place of fearing people into something. And I see it so often. I find it to be so disappointing. nah, I'm not gonna do this, not today. Like I see all these reels and I'm just like, what the fuck is that doing? How is that helping anyone? Not diet, keto comes up on the screen. Nope. This comes up on the screen. Nope. Those are all just tools.
Yeah.
And they may work for someone. And as soon as you slander it, that person could have lost out and you've done a disservice. You know, there are plenty of benefits to all those things. Well, oh no, you can eat whatever you want and do what you want. Motherfucker, they're already doing that.
If that were true, they'd already be where they want to be. There is a line that they need to walk. Like you can't just do whatever the fuck you want and get the results that you want.
That stuff sounds good. And if it sounds good and it sounds easy, oh, I don't know. It's probably
that sounds like a red flag.
That is, to me, that's a red flag. If someone doesn't tell you it's going to be hard, but you're worth it. Well, if it's fucking easy, you would have did it already. And it's not easy, you know, digging into oneself and self-improvement is in whatever fashion is going to be hard because you're going to have to dismantle some of those roadblocks you've created for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like nobody makes those roadblocks for you, but you.
Yeah.
You know, like realistically at the end of the day, that's why I said so much of it comes back to ego in the end. And I say this from a place of having still to this day, deconstructing a massive fucking ego. Would you believe? Massive fucking ego. And it was nothing but a hindrance. I thought it made me stronger and it protected me, but it didn't allow me to grow. It held me back.
Yeah.
And that's why I try to shed that skin like a snake as much as I can. And I don't mean that in a negative. You could use the analogy of a phoenix if you wanted to, but it's all about shedding what's holding you back and becoming new.
Right.
And better.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, whatever way someone wants to look at it, but like as far as we know, we got one ride on this little ride called Earth, right? So
let's make
people are free to make their choices, but if you tell me you love something, let's have you love it as much as you can for as long as you can and as present as you can.
Yeah. Can you like truly appreciate something if you're not present for it? That's a question that I would throw out to people. Like, because if you're not there to enjoy it and like feeling what it is in your body and what it is in your environment, how are you actually enjoying it? You're not even present. Like you can't enjoy something that you're not present for, not truly anyway. Like maybe you think that you enjoy it, but you don't really.
Until you cross that threshold, you'll never really know. Yeah. But then when you do, you'll never really go back, you know? And like, if I can't reach out, if I can't get someone to want to take care of themselves because they don't love themselves enough at this very moment, I tend to motivate them to want to take care of themselves so that they're not a burden and that they're able to provide and care and protect and guide the ones that they do love until they learn to show themselves some love.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit sneaky, it's a little bit manipulative, but I would rather call it potentiating rather than manipulating.
Right.
You know, because it's helping them find a reason to anchor themselves to until they are their own reason. People will go and look for an external source of God until they realize one of the names of God is I am. And then everything changes.
Yeah. There is definitely something to be said for that. Like, are we all just like pieces of the universe trying to figure itself out? Like, maybe we are a piece of God. Maybe that is what we are. And like, I think like that we are a piece of nature, like you said. And like, maybe that is what God is. And maybe that's why God is so ethereal and so difficult for us to understand and why we're in this constant search for meaning. Like, but yeah, coming back to that point, like until you can learn to love yourself, you need to find other things to motivate you to do those things.
Well, there's one thing I've learned from, what was it, the King of Black series. The one above all seems to be the one you want to be next to, you know? Not that Null isn't like the coolest fucking character going, but you know, like there's the one above and the one below all. And that's, again, just that duality and finding that balance for a lot of people. And like you said, when you do something extreme, you tend to lose that balance. And it's good to cultivate that balance to be able to continue to do those extreme things without the price that you pay.
Yeah.
And that's how it's really done.
Yeah.
You know, it's the yin to the yang, so to speak, the ebb to the flow, the mountain to the valley.
Yeah. Yeah. And like being able to go to an extreme, but then like making your way back to the way that it should be done. Somebody needed some attention.
Big stuff. Yeah, I have a lot of animals. I have 2 cats and I have 2 dogs. I am never really lonely. They're my therapy animals. They're very, very loving for everybody that come around. But this guy, I think he's looking at me going, "It's nice outside. Maybe we should go for a walk." And unfortunately, I can't. After this, I have some clients. Like one of the gentlemen who plays one of the lead roles on, he's I guess what you call the antagonist to the Archie character on Riverdale. So his name's Chris O'Shea. The Archie character is played by what's his name? TJ Appa. Like, oh man, it's slipping me right now. I'm sure if there's a fan of that, they're probably just cursing me out, right? KJ Appa. I encourage anyone to watch that if you guys are into that sort of thing. It's a pretty off the wall show, but it's Sunday nights, new episode comes out, and Chris is he's a heartthrob guy. He's a real class act, and there's some scenes we filmed where another one of my clients, Ryan. So Ryan Robbins, he's the guy from Warcraft and from Sanctuary. He's in that scene as well. They're boxing, and I got their physique so peaked. I probably shouldn't even say it based on NDAs, but I have seen some of the scenes, and the guy knocked it out the park. It's everything that you'd want to see. And I was very, very pleased with that. Like I've probably seen a few episodes of Riverdale, but not that many. But I have seen almost every episode of Supernatural. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Oh man, I've definitely seen every episode of Supernatural. I love that show.
I mean, and it was really good. I was actually really, really pumped when I trained AJ Buckley. He played one of the guys on Supernatural, was a ghost facer. And now AJ, when he got with me, he was on Supernatural, and then he did CSI, where he played a nerdy character, and he was a nerdier dude. And then after training with me, he went right to a show called Pure, and then went to SEAL Team, where he plays a Navy SEAL. So a big transformation. So if anyone wants to see a kind of geek to like literally gun-toting Navy SEAL, AJ Buckley is a guy to watch, and I'm the dude responsible for that.
Yeah. I remember when AJ first came to see you, because we were both still working at Parkland Good Life then. And like that guy's transformation is very impressive. Like if you guys want to see somebody really completely overhaul their life and like change the way that they look, the way they present themselves, like that's a prime example of just how far you can push.
With clients like, well, all my clients, but with clients especially like that, the amount of communication and closeness and in touch, it was at the level that like girlfriends would get jealous. Like I would speak to that man in the morning before like I'd even roll over to kiss a girlfriend good morning. I would check my phone and make sure everything was good, because everything was so dialed to the letter. I take my job very seriously, like a person who has to adjust the spokes on a bike tire. As soon as you adjust one, you have to adjust another, and it's constant. You can't really step away from it.
Yeah.
But so in some ways I never really shut off. Yeah. But it's pretty much this is what I'm built to do. This is what I've liked to do. And one thing I've learned is I really love working with young adults as well, to help them learn to not make some of the mistakes I have made without exactly influencing them, but just help them choose the road less traveled. I really enjoy that, working with them with self-esteem, especially through COVID, which was a tough time. I'm really love working with those individuals, or anyone for that matter, to keep them up. Now, as the world is kind of changing, we have new challenges, and I very much enjoy working with people to help them blow through those challenges and maybe turn off the TV a little bit. Maybe walk away just a little bit. Maybe do a little introspection.
Step away for a little while. Yeah.
Like for a lot of people, God is the TV. And they don't realize it. It is what tells them, it's what raised them. It was the babysitter. It's how they formulated their opinion and their personality. It's how they formulate and how they're told who to hate and what to support. And we're all better than that. Absolutely. We're all better than that. And it's unfortunate now with these things you're seeing with censorship and people using terms like misinformation and everything else. There's just different perspectives. There's different truths.
Yeah.
You shouldn't just be able to throw around the word science like they used to in the past, except they said God, and then they lynched people up, and now they cancel people. People can't see we're cyclical, and we need to break those patterns. As trainers, we observe patterns.
Yeah.
And that's the pattern of humanity right now. And it's not good. And I truly believe that we can be better, especially here in Canada. I'm not liking what I see going on. People using double speak a lot, bank accounts frozen, yet still trying to use the term democracy. It's really interesting. And it could be a challenging place to be. And it could be challenging to observe, but not have that stuff consume you.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
if you have a good balance of your health, your fitness, and your mind and your breath, those things won't consume you as much. And then you won't have to live in that state of fear and scarcity. And that's the true empowerment that I think that a lot of people can take from fitness right now, not just with what your passion is, but it can be your strength. It can be your light amongst the dark, because like, as much as people don't want to admit it, I don't know what this is from, but the darkness is always there waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can't have the light without the darkness too. You won't appreciate
it. No, you cannot.
Right.
I think that's from Thor, actually. That's from Thor Dark World, if I had to guess.
could be.
The dark elves, with the dark elves, so that basically, no matter where the light goes, the darkness is always right there. And you got to learn how to embrace both of those things and realistically break the patterns. So for anyone watching, I would suggest that you back up a little bit, pull back the lens, and look at some of the patterns that you do, and don't judge them as good or bad. But ask yourself, are they serving the life that I'm trying to cultivate? And if they are, continue to roll with those patterns. But if they're not, consider it might be time to break those patterns and start a new set of patterns that might help you get a little closer to the life you're trying to cultivate.
Absolutely. That is a great place to wrap it up there, buddy. I know you've got a call coming up, so why don't you let the people know where they can find you, and we'll call it a day.
I would love it if everyone would come check me out at Adrian Veinot, ADrianVeinot. That's at Instagram. That's where I put all my eggs. I admittedly only have so much time, so I'm not on all the platforms. And IG was the one that I picked. But I really want to thank you for having me on, and for everyone who listened, took the time to tune in today or any other day. I hope I was able to say something, some little speck of dust in there that may have inspired you, or at least, challenge your thoughts, maybe pissed you off. I don't care, as long as I got in your head.
That's
and
where
made
growth
you
comes from.
As long as it made you think differently. Thank you so much again, Jason.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming on with me, buddy. I really appreciate it.
I'd love to do it again anytime. Maybe we talk a little more games and geekery. I am I think everybody knows by now, I run my lips like I got my Nikes on them. So
we will definitely have to do it again, my man, for sure.
Excellent.
All right.